Welcome back to United TV, latest Manchester United news, latest Manchester United transfer stories, and too many has been something that's been trending for a while. There's been a few updates. I want to use some quotes from Solly Talks, who is one of the most credible sources on Twitter recently. Also, he was the account which dropped the news about Michael Carrick about 2 days before the other accounts got on board. So he was quite been very accurate recently. And Solid Talks is actually going to come on the channel in the summer in the transfer window. We have to discuss this as well. So that could be quite good news over the summer. We should be able to get some information from Sully. I'm not sure how often he'll be able to come on, but we might be able to try and set up a weekly stream, which would be, I think, very good. And before we jump into that, so people are going to have some different thoughts and opinions. So let me know what you think in the comments regarding Tchouaméni, the chance of joining Manchester United. A little bit of breaking news, which I think is quite positive for the club as well, is Mainoo only really been a starter since probably the end of January when Carrick took over, but he's been nominated for Premier League Young Player of the Season. So that's potentially some good news for Mainoo. Potentially positive news for the club as well. If Bruno Fernandes wins Player of the Year, Mainoo possibly wins Young Player of the season as well. This could be, individually, but some good awards for Man United. And finishing third in the league is a big improvement on 15th. So the question is going to be, how did Man United kick on from there? But I thought I'd share the Khomeini story because I think that's breaking news. And I think that's quite new. And it's another positive that Khomeini has been performing very well since he came into the club. I would say since he started playing more matches regularly. And that's a positive for the season. And it does feed into the story that Manchester United, this is a few stats for people that want to know about how the midfield's been functioning and how our defensive work's been going. And Manchester United has actually got the best stats in the whole Premier League in terms of winning duels, which we know is pretty key in transitional based football. And actually, winning your battles on the pitch is one of the fundamentals. So that's a good stat. And it shows that Man United are actually good at some things. And maybe they're actually the best in the league at one of the key things as well. So clearly we need to add a bit more quality to the squad and then we can kick on from there. But there's a few, I thought I'd share those things because it does show that the underlying kind of information about where the club's at is probably that some of the younger players are obviously doing well. Also, that in terms of like how we're doing on the pitch in battling against other teams, generally favourable. I mean, winning the most duels in the Premier League is obviously a stat that makes a lot of sense. I know some stats don't mean much, but I think that one does. So going into too many, I will jump into the comments to get some opinions on this one because a lot of it depends on Real Madrid have said that if too many wants to leave, then they would be open to letting him go. Essentially, it would be a case of negotiating a price, and maybe we're going to see a few unusual things happen in the transfer window. There's stories that Rodri might stay at Real Madrid, so might stay at Man City and get a bigger contract. So I think a few things up in the air. Manchester United. They're implying that they're going to spend quite big. Maybe they're going to go quite big on two midfield players and then get a cheaper midfield player, which is a potential option. But this is the angle that people are looking at is if Tchouaméni is going to join Manchester United, it's essentially up to Manchester United to sell the project and look at offering Tchouaméni a deal he thinks is preferable. There's a couple of stories also that maybe are going to change the angle a little bit. Is that if it looks like Mourinho is going to go back to Real Madrid, and I don't know if that is definitely going to happen, but it certainly looks like it's on the cards. Does that make it more or less likely that Tchouaméni leaves Real Madrid? But if you got someone like, I think Mourinho, clearly Mourinho is going to be an interesting choice for Real Madrid. Going back to a club, it's something which doesn't tend to happen with managers as far as I'm trying to think. It doesn't seem, but does it make it less likely? I was just thinking that if you want someone that's defensively strong, you look at Makelele with Chelsea, but that is going back sort of 20 years, isn't it? So whether Mourinho is going to look at that, and is Mourinho going to have a lot of power at the club as well, is something that would be genuinely up in the air that no one's going to know 100%. Jim says, I thought too many wanted to stay at Real Madrid. I don't think actually there's any. Real Madrid want too many to stay. I don't think there's a lot of news coming out regarding Tchouameni's preference. And it would be up to Manchester United to actually, clearly there's a few things happening. It would be up to Manchester United to convince Tchouameni to go. I think one of the things I read about Tchouameni was that he was a bit dissatisfied with his role in the club. And that's something which, maybe it depends on what happens in the transfer window. We know Real Madrid have had what is a disappointing season. Like we could say that, a definitely disappointing season. How do Real Madrid respond to a disappointing season? Like they're not going to be selling. I don't think they're going to sell Valverde. There's a lot of top quality players at the club. I'm not sure exactly, what they would do. But if you look at Real Madrid, they might try and offload Camavinga, but if that's not possible, they might look at other players they can move on. And if you've got a squad like Real Madrid's and you want to move players on and bring new players in, then the players you leave, you're going to have some very good players leaving. So there could be opportunities here for people looking at trying to get these deals done. Evening, afternoon, Ian. Good to see you. So I'll go for a few of the comments and let me know your thoughts. I mean, we might run a poll at some point during the stream if there's something to discuss. For the so yeah, look at this. Also, if you're able to share the stream or click the like, that's appreciated. If you are new to the channel and want to subscribe, it will actually put an alert on the screen as well. So if you're watching, you're not a subscriber, everything's free on the channel, but it will pop up on the screen. So I'll be able to say thanks for that. But big up to you, Andy, as well. So I'll go through a few of the comments and let me know whether you think is this deal likely or is this something that's going to happen. Big up to you, Jordan. No, I saw that. Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate that. I just want to say that was a couple of stories being pushed out. I saw it being covered as a lead story on a different channel. And Bremo, as far as I'm aware, is not going to go anywhere at all either. So another factor. And Berber says Michael Carrick shortlisted for Premier League Manager of the Season award despite being in charge of Manchester United for 15 games. Is that true? Is that so? So I did cover the story at the start of the stream saying that Mainoo is being nominated for Young Player of the Season. So it does go to show that the second half of the season, Manchester United has certainly kicked on a lot and a lot of good individual performances. And I suppose overall team results have been very good. So yeah, for Chris Wood is usually quite good. People talking about Embuemo for sale. I think you should just no one thinks Embuemo's for sale. Like I don't think anybody thinks that. Just to put that out there, nobody thinks that's for sale. And the question is like I said, is it more or less likely Tchouaméni's available if Mourinho goes? And would Mourinho actually have much say? And do you think it's likely that Manchester United, now that we've got like Carrick's going to be in charge, does it make it like easier or more difficult to attract certain players with Carrick? Because you probably got one thing on one hand, you've got Michael Carrick in charge. You kind of know what's going to be happening next season. It feels a bit. It doesn't feel the most risky. It's probably not the most exciting option, but does it bring some stability to the club? Would people like one of the things that's happening at Real Madrid at the moment is there does seem to be a lot of chaos, and they might be trying to brush it under the carpet, but there does seem to be a significant falling out between a lot of the key players at that club. If that means that a player is going to be moved on, is that going to be too many? Real Madrid will definitely sign players in the summer. They always do look to try and invest in their squad, and they didn't win the league. They haven't done that well in Europe, so they might look at where they can change things, and maybe having a more attacking player instead of too many in midfield might be something they want to go for. So it might be that Mourinho would like to keep too many, but there's going to be people above Mourinho that are making decisions about the squad. So maybe Mourinho won't have as much power as people think, and maybe that would be also. This is mainly down to too many. So this is mainly down to too many deciding whether he wants to play wherever Real Madrid want to use him next season, or whether he would rather stay there. And the salary wise, I've covered a few times saying that it's not going to be astronomical. He's on about 200k a week there. It would be one of the more expensive signings Manchester United could do. And Danny says we're getting Anderson, not too many. I haven't heard a lot about Anderson recently. Do you think there's a genuine chance we can get Anderson, Danny? That it's been talked about as being unlikely and maybe a favourable like City are favouring that move. So if something breaks that says different, it would mean that Manchester United they'd have to spend a huge amount of money. That if United matched Nottingham Forest valuation and put an offer on the table that was accepted, and Anderson decided to join Manchester United, then I don't think there's not going to be much money available for the rest of the midfield, is there? There's going to be, you'd imagine that then we'd have to start looking at maybe a player that's 20 million, like Shea from like Southampton. We might have to look at trying to do other deals. I read an article. Yeah, if you share it, Danny, I'll look into it and maybe cover it on the next stream. But no, I'll look at I'll look into that because that's going to be something that Man United apparently that there was like IndyCar putting out a story about 2 weeks ago, which people didn't really give it too much credit. But apparently Man United haven't ruled out trying to go for Anderson. It feels difficult, but you never know until he actually signs with City. Then it's going to be on the table, isn't it? It's going to be one of those deals that yeah. So Neil Golding, okay, Sports Boom. If you're able to post anything in Discord, because I just won't remember that by the end of the stream, but I'll try and remember Neil Golding. Or if you follow me on social media, just share it anywhere. I'll try and look at that one. Is Carrick completely done yet? Says Cake. I think it's pretty much a negotiation process at this point. So regarding Carrick, it seems that they're going to be offering him. It might be till 2029. I think I said something. I think I saw something like that. This either very early this morning or late last night. That they might be offering him a 3-year deal, and they might be offering Holland a deal alongside that as well, and looking to get an extra coach. So I think there's a I'm not going to say it's up in the air, but I think they're going to be offering Carrick a 3-year contract. I'm imagining, but until it's actually here we go, we're not going to find out. So I think everybody thinks it's just a matter of time, and it is pretty much a done deal. But I think 3 years is like a standard contract. I don't think people need to worry too much about the length of the contract because if it doesn't work, then you don't see out the contract anyway. But I don't think there's any instances where managers get offered much less than that. So I think when people said give Carrick 1 year, does any coach get a 1 year contract? I don't think that's something that we ever see happen. So it would be like a few-year deal, and then I'd imagine the worst case scenario if Manchester United offer a contract to any head coach, whether it was even if it's like Nagelsmann or Areola, if you offer a 3-year deal, it's really unlikely that managers actually see the whole contract anyway. Otherwise, Chelsea would be offering like 1 year deals every year. So I don't think there's anything to worry about regarding the 3-year deal. If Carrick's a disaster, he won't be there 3 years, will he? So it's just standard. It's standard for every club. Manchester United can sort this out by making sure the transfer window is spot on. And if Manchester United want to make sure Carrick's a success, it's exactly the same energy for if they got Nagelsmann. You've got to make sure you back these managers with a sensible transfer window as well. Welcome, Chris, to the chat. Said it's finally looking not broken, so don't fix it. Yeah, I think from Manchester United's perspective, they look at what's happening with Michael Carrick. The results have been good. Okay, people can question the performances, but the results are good. And I think until we see something otherwise, then there's not lots of evidence to change it. That you could say that Areola's been doing really well at Bournemouth. Bournemouth have been a bit more of an organised club for a while. It would be a different situation joining Manchester United. So I have seen like a few people talking about Areola as a better option in their point of view, but you'd have to look at it and say, well, you know, what's the evidence? Like he's never managed Manchester United. We have got someone in managing Manchester United at the moment that is doing a good job. So no, I think that's the situation. I'm not going to say much else about Carrick apart from that, but I'm open minded and I hope Carrick succeeds. Like I really hope he succeeds. Like I'd hope any manager would succeed. And people can have their doubts, but eventually we'll have to have a look at. It's a results based business, isn't it? So we can have a discussion next season. But at the moment, I think it's that there doesn't seem a lot of point for me in trying to guess how Michael Carrick's going to do because any manager that wants to manage Manchester United will need improvements in the squad, and that's 100% for anybody. So going back to the too many situation, do you feel this is a deal that Man United are going to invest a lot of effort in trying to do? Because it probably depends on. I think for a lot of it, it depends a bit on Anderson. Like if Anderson can be done, I think Manchester United would prioritise that deal. I think they would slightly favour going for a Premier League player if possible. Anderson would be, I think, what maybe like 2 years younger, 2 to 3 years younger than Tchouaméni. Clearly, like Tchouaméni's got different attributes. I think Anderson will bring a lot of energy. He's not going to win the percentage of ground duels that Tchouaméni does. He's probably not as good in the air, but maybe he'd actually be a bit better going forward. So it could be that he's actually going to be It depends how Man United want to play. I think when you've got a player of too many's quality, you can always find a place for him in an effective team. If you're looking at getting Anderson instead, then I think that in terms of like, does it work in the Premier League? 100%, isn't it? 100% it would work well. So I hope that United find out one way or another. If we did get this one, so say for example, if Man United did manage to get Elliot Anderson signed, as much as it feels like it's a stretch to kind of like say, okay, this might happen or this would happen, then it would be the first signing I think for a long time that Man United have got a player that everybody thought was going to go to Manchester City. So it could be like a watershed moment in terms of like, can Man United attract the best players in the Premier League to join them over City? And last season there was talk about Gyökeres, but Gyökeres had his heart set on Arsenal. I don't know why, but he wasn't going to join Manchester United. Maybe there's something happened with Amarin. There's definitely something I think that happened behind the scenes that wasn't just about where Arsenal were as a club. But no, it would probably be the biggest story of the season or the biggest story of the transfer window if Manchester United did actually get Anderson. They have said for how long have they said it for? Probably like 2 months that Anderson's their top target, and everybody expects him to go to Manchester City. And I'm still expecting Anderson to be a Manchester City player when it gets to the summer and the transfers get sorted out. But if he joins Manchester United, I would be obviously very happy, but I would be equally quite surprised that Man United have managed to get this deal done. And regarding too many as well, if Manchester United got too many to actually decide he wanted to leave Real Madrid, that would be honestly that would be a big thing as well. Because I think a lot of people are wondering whether Carrick can attract these sort of players. And the outside guy says if Carrick is given good depth and he fails, he's saying if another manager was to come in and he doesn't get depth, he fails. So it's on Ineos to actually spend. Yeah, no, I think this one is true. If Carrick isn't given some squad options and a better team, it's going to be quite difficult to manage Champions League football, isn't it, and the Premier League. And it would be the same for any manager, like the same for any manager coming in. If you gave, yeah, if you gave Nagelsmann this squad and said, right, you need to get third in the league and you need to do well in the Champions League, it would be quite a stretch, wouldn't it? You'd need to get a few midfield options in. And I think that's the minimum. I think this must be like almost done deal as well. So I did see something this morning that I don't know if it's the same story that you saw, um, Danny, in the chat, but I saw something that was saying that Manchester United would be looking possibly at Manchester United getting money from Rasmus, getting money from it might have been Agati or Xerxes, and saying that might pay for most of like the a transfer fee to try and get Elliot Anderson. So it's probably going to put a decent amount of money on the table. It probably pays for too many. Like if they like 44 million euros for Rasmus, and you add an Agati or Xerxes onto that, you're probably getting close to paying for the transfer fee. But no, I think yeah, I'm not going to bother speaking about Carrick too much more because it's the difficulty is that we don't know what's going to happen absolutely at all. So I'd say Harry Maguire, is this Harry Maguire picked United over City? Yeah, we did actually, I suppose the Harry Maguire one, we did pay a lot of money, didn't we? So did pay a lot of cash for him. What's the chance that Ineos wanted Southgate as manager but couldn't get him in now? I think the chance of well, I'll say that I think the chance of Gareth Southgate wanting to be a club manager are pretty minimal. Well, I think he's gone past that. He's been England manager. I think now he's just on the board of other companies. I don't see why Gareth Southgate would suddenly go back into club management. I think he's gone past that in terms of his career. So I would not be expecting him to be a serious option at all. But he does get linked. I think he's friends with Jim Radcliffe, isn't he? Or he's got some links to Jim Radcliffe. But I don't think Southgate would ever be manager of Manchester United. So Danny says, you're saying by the end of the month, this story grows. Do you honestly think so, Danny? Do you honestly think that it's going to be a situation where Anderson becomes likely to join Manchester United? I mean, I'd be quite interested to see what happens if that. The only thing I can think of is potentially if Pep Guardiola leaves Manchester City and maybe they look at certain things happening at that club. Yeah, I'd be surprised regarding that one. No, we're gone in like too many. What is the chance that Manchester United can actually get? No, I think if United wanted to buy too many, they could afford him. I think the salary demand for too many would be absolutely fine. What do you think is the likelihood that too many actually decides to join Manchester United? And does having like I suppose with United with Real Madrid they got Mourinho in. Mourinho will be, I guess, volatile for it, but we'll probably get. You'd imagine Mourinho would get results, but it tends to like go in a cycle where things like fall apart quite a lot after a couple of years. But it might be that. Do you think that United can put an offer on the table that too many is happy with? I did see a comment earlier on in the stream. It might have been Stephanie saying that maybe Casemiro could work on this with like and kind of talk up the idea of moving from Real Madrid to Manchester United. And one of the things that Casemiro was saying in his interview with Rio Ferdinand was how much he loved playing for Manchester United, the support of the fans, the stadium, and everything around the club. It's obviously a massive club. And one of the things he said was that I think Rio Ferdinand asked him about trophies because Casemiro won everything at Real Madrid. And Casemiro's response was that he just loved it. It's the best career move he's made. So I think it does give you an insight into some players that it's not always about all the trophies. Okay, Casemiro was in probably a lucky position that he'd already won everything there was to win in the game already. And for someone like Elliot Anderson, who's at the start of his career, relatively speaking, it's going to be, maybe he's looking at, maybe some players do look at City and think, actually, I can go there, win some trophies. But it depends. Like, did Jack Grealish enjoy his time at City the same way that Casemiro enjoyed going to Manchester United but not winning anything? Well, he did win. He won the FA Cup, and I think winning cups at Man United is still a good achievement. Ian says if we get Elliot Anderson, we're going to pay a lot of cash. I agree with that. It's going to cost a fortune if we get him. Say if Rodri stays, it does give us a much bigger chance. So part of this is to do with it looks like Manchester City might be considering, or actually looks like they're trying to offer Rodri a big contract to stay. So there does seem to be a few people talking about the Man City contract situations with certain players, and they have spent a lot of money in the last couple of windows. And there is like new regulations coming in about how much you can spend on salaries, how much you can spend on the cost of the squad. So maybe Manchester City are going to have to rein it in a little bit regarding that, just a little bit. So Neil says too many would be a great signing for Manchester United. Um, So to go through this, Lucky, say 125 million, then this is definitely when you see price tags. I did a stream. If you look on the channel, there's there's something about Matheus Fernandes about him costing 84 million pounds. Okay, there's a video on the channel. I can't remember how long ago it was now. And the first thing I said on this was, we will not pay 84 million for Matheus Fernandes. Okay, it doesn't matter how much we value that sort of player. We're not going to spend 84 million pounds on Fernandes. The same way that we're not going to spend 125 million pounds on Anderson. If we do, I'll do a little video apologising for saying this, but no, I can't see any way Manchester United spending 125 million pounds on a player. I can't see Manchester City spending that sort of money either. That the 125 million is astronomical. It's probably going to be like would be more than most transfers in the summer window. And Anderson's good, but we're talking about like crazy record fees. So I don't think that's going to happen this season. Manchester United might get him, and if they did, or City got him, I think the Anderson price is going to be lower. Like I would be amazed if it was like over 100. So I don't see how you need to spend 125 on Anderson when there's very good midfielders available for about half the price. Like, okay, you can spend a premium because maybe he's considered a better buy than some players, but not double. Like, come on, it's the same way as like Tonali won't be 100 million. If he is, I think it's a bit too much as well. I think you can see that when you look at some players, it's about constructing a squad and you don't need to spend crazy money on all these players. So I think that he will go for big money, but I think it's going to be a bit more sensible. I don't know exactly how much, but I would say take the 25 off and make it close to 100. I think that would be a massive profit for they spent 35 million on Anderson, didn't they? So if they got 65 million profit, they've got to be happy with that, surely. So Anderson, I think 85, so 80, 85. Fernandez, But I could see numbers similar to that actually. I would say I think Belieber could be like close to 60-ish. Like I think Belieber could be about 60-ish. If you look at add-ons, then there's clearly a player that's actually decent. Like form has been a bit not so good. If you look at Belieber's stats and you look at what he's been doing, he's actually dual like winning duels. Belieber's actually a lot better than most of the players we talk about on a daily basis. So Belieber's up there close to like Casemiro, I think, in terms of like how many duels he wins. Anderson wins the ball back more, but his duel percentage is a lot lower. But I think what's happening is Belieber is playing less further, he's playing a bit deeper, so he's doing more defensive stuff. The runs he used to do a year ago, he's not really doing. So it could be that Man United feel like they can still get the player they saw a year ago, but he would be obviously in a different role at United. But no, I think those prices are probably not far off the mark. I'd imagine Fernandez. It depends very much on whether West Ham stay in the league, doesn't it? That if West Ham get relegated, which I think most people think is going to happen now, then there's quite a few players that might be taken from their club. So it will be that situation, I think. Is it worth doing a poll in the chat? Is there anything like people want to talk about that? Is it worth considering like too many versus another option or Anderson versus another option? Like, is there anybody that thinks that too many would be a better option than Anderson, given like potentially a cheaper price? Or because I'd imagine too many is about 70 million. I'd imagine like Believe, like I said, is about 60-ish, something along those lines. So I can see that United, so Forrester want a nice, like around a Declan Rice price. He was about 110, wasn't he? Like 110 for Arsenal. I would probably argue that Declan Rice he was club captain of Forest. They won a European trophy, didn't they? The Conference League, Conference Cups. They'd already won that. So if you're looking at the option, Declan Rice, he'd already played at a very high level for West Ham for a few years. So I can see why he cost that sort of money. I think Anderson's been good, but probably not as good for not as long as Declan Rice was for West Ham. So no, if Elliot Anderson had played better against Aston Villa and they won the Europa League, then I think they could probably name their price. But he had a pretty poor game in that one. I know it's only like one, but yeah, I don't know who got on that one. But yeah, no, it could be that sort of money. It could be that one. Tony says, let's go for Anderson, too many, and Belieber. That would be probably that's probably like one of the most expensive, most expensive things we could be doing. And wasn't Caicedo about 115 million to Chelsea? He was about that, wasn't he? It was something almost. It might have been almost that exact price, and that's kind of what we saw last season. I think last season a lot of journalists were pushing out stories which there wasn't a lot of factual basis behind them regarding Carlos Baleba. I think a lot of journalists said that Brighton wanted Caicedo money, whereas in reality, Brighton just said he's not for sale. So I think a lot of people thought that Brighton were asking for a crazy price, but I don't think Brighton even considered a sale. So there wasn't going to be anything like that happening. Tony says we have the money if we structure the deal. I suppose if we spent £300 million, and if we spent £300 million and we got say midfield done for about 200, you could see maybe United are actually looking at. Like, I think if we had the money, well, we probably do have the money if we want to spend. I think one of the issues might be is that maybe like last summer, United had some financial issues because of money they lost during like COVID when the stadiums were closed and etc. And that's kind of factored into like a 3-year rolling kind of financial cycle. And it might be that Man United last season, I believe we actually went into like a loan facility. Even though we got billionaires running the club, we're still like run at a huge debt. So we did borrow a lot of money, and I think we have to pay some of that back. So it might be that there's money there. I think there's definitely going to be money in the future. So if I was United, I would say it's worth actually pushing hard in this one. I don't know actually, Bilal. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. I'll have to think about it where I can watch that one. But if we had the money, I think the money could be there because I would say if Man United actually went big, and if you're talking about going big, like Anderson, Tchouaméni, and Belieber feels a bit like an outrageous summer that sort of for the just midfield. Then if you're looking at that, then you could definitely benefit from it in a couple of years, couldn't you? So Andy Mitten said, doesn't sound like a big shopping list. I'll have a look at this one quickly, but I think Man United they tend to downplay loads of stuff, don't they? So they're saying Manchester United want two midfielders. This is Andy Mitten in the Athletic. So two midfielders, likely three if Agate leaves. I think Agate's gone. Like I think Agate's definitely gone. So I'd say three midfielders. So a goalkeeping backup to Lamans would be a no-brainer, definitely. A left-sided player. So a forward if Joshua Zirkzee exits, which I think is 99% certain as well. And a defensive leader might wait if the current defenders remain. So I would say that sounds a bit like you got three midfielders, goalkeeping backup, left-sided player, and a forward. I think that's like six players. I think most people would say if you got at least six players in, because I don't think anybody like does anybody really think we're going to see Agate and Xerxes next season? Like, there's no way we see those players again, is there? That I don't think these players are going to be featuring for Manchester United beyond the next couple of games, and I'd be surprised if that's the case. Yeah, think maybe United would get one of these players. Like you could look at one of these players. Scouts have spent 500 million last year. Why can't we? We're a bigger club, says Tony. So I agree we're a bigger club, but maybe I think with Liverpool, Liverpool didn't actually spend any money the year before, so they won the season. Slot came in, but they'd spent nothing, so they spent no money for a season. So if you look at it, it was probably be like it's the same as spending 250 per year for 2 years. So Liverpool did have a massive transfer window last season, but the year before they didn't really spend anybody on anyone. And Manchester United, we have had a few high profile mess ups where we bought Anthony for however much that cost. We got Sancho for this, and we haven't been able to sell these players on. So Liverpool do also sell players quite well, and we are a bigger club, but also we haven't been in the Champions League as much as Liverpool have recently, and that's really yeah, that's not very good, is it? That if you're not in the Champions League, the prize money alone gives you loads gives you a lot more cash. So yeah, if United had been in the Champions League for the last, say, 4 years straight, and we hadn't finished eighth, we hadn't finished 15th, we probably have, at least like we'd have an extra 150 million, wouldn't we, as a minimum? If we'd have got Champions League football this season and last season, just on prize money alone, it's probably about 90 million a year. So that's 180 million we've had to spend. So that's the difference between having some crap managers that get you eighth and 15th in the league. It does hit your budget. And if anything, I know people say that top four is not a target, and top four is not a target, is it? For sure. But if you do manage to get security and finish in the Champions League, then that kind of sorts your budget out. So I do agree with what you're saying, Tony, and that we should be spending more money. But the financial situation of not finishing the Champions League is probably greater than ever. Like if you miss out on Champions League football, it's now costing you about 90 million pounds with all the extra games and the prize money, etc. And if you factor that in year on year, you then have a knock-on effect of not being able to track the best players, and then you have this cycle. Like look at Chelsea now; they're going to miss out on Champions League football. What's the impact of that? That they've got to pay a lot of salaries. They're not going to have as much money to spend. Potentially then you stop being invited to the Club World Cup when that comes around, and other sort of money spinning. You lose a lot of money financially, so their budget's going to be hit. If then Chelsea can't respond and finish in the Champions League this season after, they've still got all these big contracts at the club. They still got the overheads. They then take another hit on prize money. And you can't sell players that for profit when you start buying crap players. Like you can't start selling Gittins and Ganacho for a profit. So the Chelsea model is quite risky. And I think United are probably lucky that we're one of the biggest clubs, that we managed to finish outside the Champions League and attract decent players. So we need to kind of make sure this doesn't happen again. I think that's a little bit why there might be there might be a reason there might be a reason why Manchester United are willing to spend a bit more to try and stay in the Champions League because I think now it makes a big difference if you don't finish in that competition. Andy says perhaps it's just going to be a concentration on the midfield and not looking at other places. So perhaps we will do 200 million on just the midfield. I think we still need more depth. Like we do need a bit more depth, don't we? That that's something that I think if United don't do that, then it'll be a bit of a concern. Right? If United just bought midfield players, it would feel a bit. I don't know, it feels a bit stupid, doesn't it? Like why wouldn't you fix other parts of your team? So I think this season has shown that centre backs, like left back, there's no depth. Striker, there's no depth. Goalkeeper, there's no depth. I think we need to look at a few options. I don't mind actually getting. I don't mind a couple of loan deals. I've said this that I don't mind looking at loan deals in terms of players that are going to be experienced. I think what you could look at is potentially now maybe there could be actually a few loan deals where you get some experience into the squad that is going to be beneficial because there's going to be some academy players coming through, and I think having like the balance right would be pretty critical at this point in time. Welcome readers are better to the chat and all the other chat. Good to see you. No, I think we need to write off Chelsea to be honest. So I'll do a quick poll, and this is one where a couple of options. Maybe Man United's two big options are like potentially what people want to see the most. So I'll put this one. I just want you to put what's the best signing or which would be the best signing for Manchester United. I'm going to give you the two names. So I'll put a rough price by them as well. So we're going to have Mr. Tchouaméni. We can only go by what's been put out there as a rough valuation. So we're going to put 70 million pounds. So I think that's the price that would be. Yeah, it's going to be there or thereabouts. So about 70 million. We're going to put Anderson. So price wise for Anderson, what do we think is somewhat sensible? Are we going to put 100? Put 100 plus? Do we think 100? Would it be over 100? Yeah, as a kind of like guess, I'm going to put about 100 plus, unless people think it's definitely going to be cheaper. I'll put maybe 100, but as a guide. So it's going to be something like that. So best, what would be the best signing for Manchester United? Too many 70 million pounds. Anderson 100 million pounds. You could probably factor in that too many salary. Just to put this into context, too many salary at Real Madrid is £200,000 a week basic. There's about £50,000 bonus for Champions League, which again, like Manchester United do the same sort of thing. And you'd imagine that all in all, it's going to be like 270, something like that. So I think Anderson would potentially be about 200k a week. That's rumored to be what City would be looking to offer him. So Rob says Anderson 85 plus add-ons. So I think it's going to be. So just to kind of put a rough guess, I'll put about 100 because that would give you like 15 add-ons, but it might be. I mean, too many might cost a bit more, possibly. So it's difficult to guess, isn't it? So I'll put those two figures up there just to see if these options were definitely on the table. You've got one player that's very slightly younger. You've got different ones as well. So how much were Anana's wages? I think Anana got paid about 70k a week, according to I think Anana was on about. I think Anana was getting paid 35k a week. We doubled it to 70, which is a lot of money for a player of his quality, but you know, it's probably not a lot when you compare it to other players. But no, there's two options there. It's a lot of money for Anderson. It is a lot of money for Anderson, but it's something to consider, isn't it? Lucky says Anderson already chosen Manchester City. I think people think that. I mean, Danny says he's not sure that I haven't seen that. I think I'm not sure I've seen Anderson say categorically he only wants City, so I don't know. I think a lot of it think that City are just getting in early and trying to do the groundwork. I think City have been, no, City are ahead. Don't get me wrong. So we could pay too many wages with Anana and Rasmus. How much do we pay Rasmus? Exactly. So this is kind of what we spent in the past with 89 million on Paul Pogba. So Harry Maguire 80 million, Anthony 80. The Anthony one and the Sancho one are probably the ones that really, really, yeah, they were really bad deals. Lukaku was a lot of money. But Lukaku we did sell for pretty much the same amount. Like Lukaku, I think we bought for 75 and then sold him for 70 or something like that. So Lukaku was sold for pretty much the same amount of money. So I think like, obviously with this one, when you look at this list, like Pogba was actually a useful player when we had Mourinho and we won the Europa League and the FA Cup in that year. But Jadon Sancho and Anthony were two really bad deals, like really poor. Neil says Anderson no more than 60. I think it's just going to cost a lot more than that, Neil. Like really going to cost a lot. And don't forget that PSR has changed the squad cost ratio. I believe it's going to be in the region of was it 80% in the Premier League or 85% in the Premier League? But if you're in a European competition, your squad cost ratio has to be 70%. So you can only spend 70% of your, I guess it's like turnover, is it, or profit? I think it's 70% of your turnover or profit. I can't remember which one it is now in terms of salaries and squad. So now this is something that Manchester United will be absolutely fine with. Manchester City might be a bit closer to the wire because they're giving some of their players astronomical salaries, it seems. So Man United's squad costs are down low. Too many wouldn't be actually he wouldn't actually be that expensive considering he would be cheaper than Casemiro salary wise. The transfer fee, given that we bought Casemiro, what, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it's actually very similar. So I think it's 60 million for Casemiro, about 70-ish for this one of revenue. Thanks. So it's of revenue. So Manchester United have one of the highest revenues still. Our revenue's only going to go up a lot. We might have dropped to like third or fourth in Europe when we finish 15th, but we're going to bounce back up to probably near the top, if not the. I think we'll probably be second to Real Madrid in turnover once we've got Champions League money kicking in. But for me, that means we could feasibly, if we actually punch to the weight we are, we could feasibly actually have a we could spend more on players than Man City do. Like if everybody's playing by the rules, Manchester United could spend more on salaries than Man City because our turnover will eventually be higher. I know Steffi says too many from me and say he's not potential. He's like the real deal, perfect Casemiro 2.0. It is like with them too many. It's the one signing, isn't it, that you're not paying for potential. You're literally paying for the player you are now, and saying that if we sign Belieber or if we sign Fernandez, who's very good, or any players that people are talking about that we've been linked to, those players we're looking at are definitely going to be ones for the future, aren't they? They're top quality players now. They're very good players now, but we will be looking at how much can they improve. Whereas too many, he's got these outrageous numbers of like he wins the ball well in the air, he wins his duels like to the tune of like it's like 96% dual win rate. So too many, if anything, would be actually better than any player in the Premier League in terms of like duels with other players. So that would be pretty exciting if we did get him in the team. It's down to like as a lot of sources, like I said, Sully's talking about this, and other journalists are talking about this. It comes down to too many actually deciding he wants to leave Real Madrid. If he wants to leave Real Madrid, then he's definitely affordable because, like I said, the cost of the transfer would be not out of line with what we've done in the past, and his salary is not crazy either. If you consider some of the salaries that Man City players, and then you look at the salary of too many, like too many is getting paid. At the moment, he's getting paid less than Mark Gahey at Man City. If Mark Gahey's on 300k a week, I think 200 Many's on 200 plus is like his bonuses and things. It's still going to be less than 300k a week. So that's the difference here. That Man City are already spending the money. Where does the best? Also, big up to you, Jeff, in the chat. Always good to see you, Jeff. So, morning to you, sir. This is probably high praise actually, considering that. Yeah, no, you would. I think, yeah, Neil. I think if you pay 60, you'd probably have to look at Fernandez then for 60. You might be able to get. There might be a few options at 60. You can get Angela Stiller. You can get maybe Belieber. But I think if you're going to be going for Anderson, Tonali, Many, they're just all going to cost a lot more, aren't they? United so Dice's hot takes. Sangari is better than Anderson, Fernandez, and Belieber. He's doing really well in the French league. It would be interesting to see that if he does eventually go to a Premier League club, then I think he'll do very well. But at the moment, I don't know why he's not been. He doesn't seem to be linked to a lot of clubs, does he? Which is a bit unusual. But maybe we see something happen. There's a long way to go in the transfer window. I've seen a lot of people talking about it for different fan bases as well, looking at him. So yeah, so Manchester United plan to offer Michael Carrick an initial contract of 2 years until June, with a 1 year option to extend. So Sully talks like I remember I said at the start of the stream that as far as I'd heard when people were asking about Carrick, I'd heard 2029, so it would be something to potentially go up to that. So now Sully talks has been like spot on with this one. Is Tonali off the table? Says Cake. I think Tonali is like the thing I saw this morning, which might be good news for some people, might be disappointing for other people, is that the gambling issue might be a factor for Man United. This is what people are thinking, that it might be that Tonali's seen as a little bit of a risk, that there is that in the back of their mind, and that United, when we had that a list of players that we put up a second ago that United side die put out there, it might be that they're considering that you're going to spend a huge amount of money, and it might be that to factor in. It might be that reason, which is a bit annoying. For anybody watching that's not subscribed as well, with this software, if you click subscribe if you're new, it will pop up a notification on the screen. But if you are new and you're just lurking in the background, everything's free on the channel, so please subscribe if you are watching. And we'll try and keep you up to date with regular Manchester United news and updates. Um, yes, I think Liverpool tend to be actually linked to Premier League players as well. So believe it or not, there's a couple of Liverpool accounts that have been talking a bit about Belieber. I don't know if there's any truth in that one, but no, we'd have to see, wouldn't we? Matheus Fernandez is also one to look out for as well. I'm getting the feeling there might be more Matheus Fernandez stories coming out quite soon. And it looks a bit like the stories with Matheus Fernandez is serious interest from PSG. That's probably not going to go away. And lots of interest from Manchester United. Bruno Fernandes talking very highly of this player as well. So it might be that Bruno Fernandes is staying. Are we going to see maybe Manchester United make a move from Matheus Fernandes? So that could be a story. But I think Paris Saint-Germain will definitely be talked about as well. And they are a serious threat. So we'd have to see this one. So let's start a petition to get him out of the club. This is going to come down to a lot of this is effectively going to come down to too many, isn't it? If too many wants to leave Madrid, then Manchester United looks to be the most likely destination, as far as I can see. That United have already made their position quite clear. Too many seems to be the situation for Madrid is they would like him to sign a contract extension, so they don't want his contract to start running down. I think he's got another couple of years, but and the situation for Man United is let's see what happens with this. But I don't think Man United can wait around. That if we're looking to try and do a deal, I don't think we can wait around to find out if too many's going to come. And maybe they might feel that Anderson an easier deal to do. Like I know people say they think he might be likely to go to City. I mean, Roy Keane agreed to go to Blackburn. So until something's signed, there's nothing off the table. So until there's like it's a done deal, I don't think there's that much to, I don't think there's much to talk about regarding that one. If too many asks for a move, doesn't he lose any bonuses? So it would probably, I think, if you handed a transfer request, then you, I think you definitely lose some loyalty bonuses. But I think what tends to happen is if a player hands in a transfer request, the club is going to, you can get, you get a signing on bonus as well. So I'm sure if Manchester United, if it made it easier for too many to join Man United and too many lost some bonuses, I'm pretty sure Manchester United would factor that into the deal and make sure make sure he doesn't lose out. So if too many is going to lose a couple of million or whatever it is, or he's going to lose some loyalty bonus, I'm pretty sure that'd be factored into his salary and his bonuses, and he would get that money back. So I don't think there's much concern for that one because that would be something that the club would. Too many's going to have to think about himself as well. and what he wants to do. If Real Madrid are pushing for him to sign an extension, does Tchouaméni want to spend 5 more years at Madrid, or would he rather go to the Premier League and see how it goes at Manchester United? Either way, yeah, it's got a good. It's not an easy decision to make because you're at one of the biggest clubs in the world and you're potentially being linked to another big club in the world. And I suppose would he want to do what Casemiro did and go there? And imagine that if he signed a new contract at Madrid, he's probably getting a pay rise. And if he joins Manchester United, you'd imagine he's getting a pay rise as well. I don't know if Madrid's going to have any sort of issues with the squad cost ratio in Europe. You'd imagine that they are in Europe every single season, so you'd imagine that they've got a high enough turnover to kind of make it work. But it might mean that with people like Mbappe on a fortune, got Valverde and all these other players that are going to be on big contracts, that the contract that Tchouaméni signed a few years ago, he's obviously going to have a bigger contract next, and it might be the same for Camavinga and other players that they might be looking to move these players on for those sort of reasons. But if you're in the chat, then please make sure you vote on this one. Oh, it looks like it's a bit of a landslide at the moment. So looking at this, 90% of people would go for Tchouaméni over Anderson. Is Anderson too expensive? Is that the reason, or is it? If you voted for Anderson, like what would make you pay more for him over somebody else? I'm kind of interested because I didn't expect it to be quite that one-sided. I thought there might be a little bit more, not hype. I thought there might be a bit more love for Anderson in the chat, but obviously we've moved past him. If you want City, we'll move past him. I'd say Eri too many is very good. We need that in the midfielder, says Stephanie. No, he is good as well. I don't actually know off the top of my head what Anderson's good at. So if he's good in the air, I know he's obviously good at duels. He's obviously got lots of other things, but I don't know about aerial duels. I know too many is good because we did look into that as well. I think too many is actually better than Tonali in aerial duels as well, like quite a bit better, and wins more. Yeah, wins more headers, wins more duels. I think in terms of what we said at the start of this stream, that this was the information about Man United this summer that United have won more duels across the pitch than any other team, and that's probably one of the reasons why we've got a lot better Premier League results this season. That when you're winning your duels, winning your battles, that's kind of the most important thing in Premier League football. It gets you back on the front foot. It stops you getting losing a foothold in games. If you can win your duels, then it's part of the problem. It does seem to be, doesn't it, that if you're looking at it, if you're going to pick, now big up to you, Jeff, if you're going to pick one player to drop into the club and replace Casemiro, Tchouaméni's probably the closest one, isn't he? He's probably the closest player out there. It feels a bit like it's a difficult one, but if you're going to pick one player, he probably would be the player. So let's close the poll and see what the result is. So, as I said, the result is like one-way traffic, isn't it? Best signing for Man United, Tchouaméni 90%, Anderson only 10%. So yeah, pretty much one-way traffic. Maybe if the story of Anderson develops, then yeah, this is a interesting one. So I can't see too many playing with Valverde again. Would you forgive him if he knocked you out? So I don't know the full story. I think Real Madrid will probably try and cover it up a little bit, or try and keep it on the. I don't know. Try not to let it get too much get out into the media. But no, I think the issue is going to be for too many and Valverde is that it's not just too many, is it? It's like too many gets on very well with Mbappe, like they're international teammates. They both backed the previous manager. Valverde didn't. If you're Real Madrid and you're looking to get rid of a player, you probably have to make a decision now. Do you want to keep Mbappe and potentially, you have to build around Mbappe, or do you keep Valverde? Because I think if too many goes, then I don't know what happens with Mbappe. He's a difficult player. There's only a couple of teams in the world that could probably afford him at the moment, but I can't. I'm not sure what happens with this one. Like, I don't think we're going to see Valverde again this season because there's no point in playing after the head injury, and I don't know what Real Madrid want to do. It might be a clear choice of like, do they back? Because I thought they wanted to get rid of too many, but I don't know for sure. I don't, I think they if they want to get rid of Valverde, would that be popular with fans? Honestly, I don't know. Say Anderson or Sang. So do you vote for Anderson then in this one, Danny? Welcome to chat, Gregory. You just joined us. We're probably going to be live for a little bit longer. I'm trying to make live streams a bit shorter. If we're going to do three a day, they will be a bit shorter than they have been. So maybe like sort of 5, 10 minutes of questions if people have got some questions. And I did say that the poll we were talking about, we have been covering a few different stories today. If you are new to the channel, then we picked up a couple of subscribers last night, but we're trying to hit 1K if we can before the transfer window opens. We've only got a month, so if you are new, then please subscribe to the channel. If you've got any questions, this is quite interactive as well. We have covered a lot about this. For people that just tuned in at the end of the stream, then the start of the stream will have a bit of information on Mainoo potentially getting potentially getting Young Player of the Year. I think Michael Carrick's actually up for nomination for Manager of the Season as well. So individual awards you might be getting. Bruno Fernandes might be getting that as well. So if too many asks to leave, says Yali, and he says he will restore Real Madrid glory. Say this one is never ever going to happen. What do you think is going to happen, Yali? Do you see Man United getting if you picked three most probable signings? Like this will be the last question from myself. What are the three most probable midfield signings we make? Like we're going to make about three. What are the three most likely you see? So also Tonali named in the Milan scandal. Is this like a historical thing? Because I think I saw Theo Hernandez. Was this something to do with like lap dances or something? There was definitely something where I think I saw something posted on social media. It might be on Twitter about 3 days ago. And is this something that happened before you joined Newcastle? Because if this is, then I think Man United they should probably start leaving Tonali alone. There's too much drama there, isn't there? Edison, Belieber, and I think that is it. If we get Edison and Belieber, I think it'll be very underwhelming based on based on what we've been seeing in the stories. I hope we do, but I hope we do better than that. But so you got Anderson, Fernandez, and Belieber. You think so? I would guess actually, if Manchester United were going to list their main target, I think the main target is Anderson. So they've said. I think Belieber's a serious target, and when I keep seeing the Bruno Fernandes story about Matheus Fernandes, it just makes me think, okay, they're going to keep Bruno. Bruno's going to be. I think if you look at Fernandes, he's going to leave West Ham, and it's probably going to be PSG or Manchester United. I think Bruno Fernandes can take him to Manchester United. Like if he gets to play with Bruno Fernandes at international level, I think we can get him at Man United for at least the next few years. So I do agree with you actually, Danny. I think if Manchester United could pick three players to sign, it might be actually those three. I think the too many one is definitely going to be if Anderson's not available, Manchester United would take too many instantly, I'm sure. But I think United do want Anderson. I'm not sure if there's an exact reason why they favour him over too many. Maybe it's going to be a similar sort of price over a 5-year period with like the contract being slightly cheaper for Anderson. So maybe the money's relatively the same for these two. Big up to you, Joel. It says can't see us getting Anderson. Price is way too inflated. I know it'd be good if I think for Man United they need someone to just go to too many and go look. Are you going to leave Real Madrid? Just decide because we need to actually get going. And with Elliot Anderson, it would be good if I get the feeling that the Anderson story is just going to happen quite quickly once the transfer window closes, and I just hope that whatever happens, it gets resolved quite quickly. So Man United either in one scenario we get Anderson, we pay a lot of money, and we go right. Okay, now we need to look at what we can do with the rest of our transfer window budget, and maybe look at now if we got Anderson and another very good midfield player. I think the third option might be quite cheap, but I think we might find a way of getting three midfielders in but they're not all going to be expensive if we land like Anderson because he will be quite pricey. So I think it will be an indication of like where we go quite soon. And Fernandez looks to be too expensive now. I'd still think that with this one, that the Fernandez price may be achievable for a relegated West Ham. Like I think West Ham are probably going to get relegated now. Like with Spurs, like kind of picking up points. West Ham's fixtures are difficult, so yeah, I would say that for me the most likely deals are probably going to be Belieber, and then I think Fernandez could be like edging up there. And if Anderson wants United, we get him, but I'm not sure if we do that. I would be looking at. I'd actually think maybe if West Ham get relegated, Manchester United should make an offer immediately for Fernandez and try and get him in. I think that would be for me the ideal scenario. And so you don't see too many asking to leave, and Real Madrid really are. If they rate him as a pillar in their future plans, then Real Madrid have got ways of like trying to appease like too many. It doesn't seem to be causing drama, so it might be that Madrid want to keep him and maybe move on. If I was Real Madrid, I'd be looking at moving on Valverde possibly. That he seems to be more of the instigator in this one, but no, it's going to be quite tricky, isn't it? United Dye is saying you're predicting that Ineos will faff about trying to haggle over the price and we'll lose out on Anderson or any other top tier signing. I hope you're wrong. If they mess this one up though, it's going to be really it's going to be a struggle, isn't it? For how can you expect Michael Carrick to get anything done if he's going to be given like players that aren't up to it? So West Ham do have the easier road. So Spurs don't win at Chelsea. They don't normally, do they? Chelsea would do like so. Yali, this Chelsea team though, they're not doing much at all, are they? So if Spurs have got Chelsea and Everton, who have West Ham got? Because I thought West Ham they need to pick up wins, don't they? So it's like West Ham they need to win the next game, surely. Otherwise, it could be all over. Yeah, I agree, Gregory. Can't buy crap and expect good results. Yeah, no, Berber just posted that, Cody, that say you don't think the messing around on price is in question. We didn't last summer, did we? I think United are going to have ideas of how much they're going to be. I'd be imagine that Man United have got an idea of how much they're going to pay for people, and maybe they're going to be a bit quicker this window. And no, Cake, you're right. You're right. If you want to get a top tier signing, you've got to pay top tier prices. If you want to sign top players in your club, you've also got to pay top tier salaries. There's no reality where you get some players that are elite that will come to your club for below market value. So you have to look at how much are you going to pay. Like when people say how much money would you pay too many, you pay too many whatever Real Madrid would be prepared to pay him. You pay too many what Man City would pay him. Yeah, that's how you get these players into the club. But United do have a low wage bill. I'm not saying we should pay above what Real Madrid would pay him. I'm not saying we should pay above what City would pay him. But if you look at the salaries that Liverpool, Manchester City, and Real Madrid pay, they're probably the benchmark for how much Man United will pay top tier talent. And that's something you have to try and there's something you have to factor in. That United has a turnover that will be up there with the top teams in Europe, and so you have to spend your money accordingly. I don't mind spending giving big salaries to very good players. In recent years, the problem has been that Manchester United have given big salaries to unproven players or players that aren't good enough. But that's something where it's a mess. But if you get a player in, that's capable of helping you win a major competition, you pay them what they're worth. That's what you have to do. So we will, yeah. I think United are going to know how much it's going to cost. I'm pretty sure United can just make an offer early on, make an official offer, and if it's way too much, we can walk away. Like we can. There's no need to waste time. We've done a lot of research over the last like on the channel. We've been talking about these players for months. I'm sure Manchester United are well aware of how much they want to pay, and they will have these figures in mind. They know how much money they're going to spend on the transfer window overall. They will have an idea how much they can spend on certain targets. they will be factoring in how much money they can get for players leaving the club, and all this will feed into like how much are they prepared to offer for an individual player. So I think this is going to be absolutely fine. Big up to you, Vril. Good to see you in the chat. So Anderson has stipulated he doesn't want to think about it until after the World Cup. Do you think that's going to push his price up? Then, uh, when does the World Cup officially start? Like, what's the official start date? Because it's going to be there's going to be some deals that are tricky to do, then, isn't there? If that's not going to happen, it could be a gamble, couldn't it? It could be a gamble. If Forest wait to gamble on after the World Cup to sell, I think Anderson's what you call it at the moment. Anderson's status is very high. People are very keen on Anderson. He's regarded a top quality player this season. His for me, his transfer window, his transfer fee is going to be sky high if he goes now. I'm not saying he. I don't think he can be. If he's going to cost 100 million or more, I don't see how he suddenly costs loads more after a World Cup. That I mean, you'd have to be like a dominant player in that competition to go much above that. But it could go worse, couldn't it? He could have a bad tournament. I don't know. If I was Forest, I think you'd have to look at it and say if you get an offer that's like in line with what one of the bigger transfer fees, maybe you should take it. Yeah. One thing I would say is that I do think that Manchester United have pretty much said that you have this idea of how much they're going to pay. Then cheers, Elizabeth. So the window 15th, World Cup 11th. So the World Cup will start before the transfer window opens, which is interesting. So we'll start covering the World Cup a bit, and then the transfer window will open shortly. So there's going to be a big overlap between news and covering matches at the World Cup, I think, on this channel. Now, it does make it more difficult, doesn't it? That I think for some of these players, that a lot of us want to see these deals done, and maybe Believe and Tonali were talked about because they're not in the World Cup. So your hope is that Neil Golding's story stating Anderson prefers Manchester United. So regarding Anderson, maybe this is something to cover this evening or whenever we do the next stream. But it might be that with the Anderson story, loads of people are saying he prefers City, but no, there doesn't seem to be direct quotes coming from Anderson. I don't think Anderson's really said anything. I think what I've seen is that a lot of people are putting out there that maybe regarding Anderson, what the realistic story is that City are just making moves a bit quicker. So City are considered a bit more advanced. They apparently made some offer. Apparently they started negotiations sooner. But I think Manchester United have said every step of the way they want to be kept informed. And if something's happening, then maybe Manchester United will act then. It would be massive news if Man United decided to try and take on City and outbid them. And it would be probably the biggest story of the summer, I said earlier, if Anderson chose Man United. And we'd have to see that. I don't think Anderson said anything, though. If someone's got a quote from Anderson that's a credible journalist, yeah, please, please say, I'm surprised there are not many more stories regarding us and Anderson considering we play Forest on Sunday. It's one thing to look out for, isn't it? We're going to be doing a calling show on the channel at full time. There may be a watch long. It depends on availability of people to do the watch long, but no, there will be. So sports writer, 29 years experience, BBC, major newspapers, and maybe it's something to look into as well. So yeah, I'm not sure what time we'll be streaming tonight. I know there's like a youth match on against City, so it might be that we look at factoring around that one. But yeah, maybe City have to do things officially through the books because of what's happened. So maybe we're going to be seeing this one. Can we sign players on a pre-contract before the window opens? I'm not sure actually. I know if a player's contract's on the last 6 months, you can go directly to the player and talk about doing something. I'm not sure what happened regarding. I don't know what's going to happen to how if a player's got a year left in his contract or about 6 months on his contract, you can speak to them, can't you? You can offer terms. So I think if Man United were looking at a player that's contract ran out in the summer, we could have already spoken to them in January. I don't know what it means about a player that's got several years in his contract. I don't think you could really get him to. I don't know, to be honest, is the answer. But if we could, then it'd be the same for every club, wouldn't it? Says there are huge sections of mainstream media who do not want Anderson at United. They're going to hate it, aren't they? They're going to hate it if we're back. That's what I think. A big up to you, Mr. Samurai, Modern Samurai in the chat with the gifted membership. So big up to you, my friend. Thank you so much for that. And new members to the channel, Delphi and DJ Darkest Night. Good to see you in the chat. Blue Lounge, my man, actually. For people that watch Chelsea content, the Blue Lounge is one of these channels. Let me just try and put this on screen if I can. Some reason it's not letting me use all these comments, so let me just find that. But if you watch a lot of YouTube channels, for some reason it's not letting me put comments on screen for a second. Let me just jump into this. Now, if you watch a lot of football channels, obviously I'm happy that you watch mine at this point in time. But if you watch a lot of channels, where is this guy's channel got? If you're able to post a comment, I can highlight it, but I can't. I don't think these are alerts, aren't they? So I can't put it in. But if Blue Lounge, if you're able to post a comment, I was just going to say shout out to you because you were definitely a really supportive channel about 3 weeks ago when the channel was having issues and I was restarting, and I was going to say that no, I'll give your channel a shout out and say no, check out Blue Lounge Chelsea fan because he posted something on his channel that highlighted kind of like we were restarting to try and raise awareness and get people to come in. But I mean, I think it could be I think it could be different, like different times. But big up to you. Let me find this one as well. So I was going to try and say that you might be in the comments be able to find it's at the Blue Lounge. So check that guy out because he's someone that was supporting my channel behind the scenes that you won't be aware of, but it's appreciated because these sort of things matter in the community. But big up to you, Modern Samurai, though. Absolute legend on the channel. Thank you so much for the gifted memberships. So Premier League Young Player of the Season award, Fernandez Hall. You're missing out the main man. You're missing out the one that Mainoo is nominated for Young Player of the Season, Cody. He's got to win it. He's like been one of the best since Mainoo came into the first team. No team has picked up more points than Manchester United. Like name on the trophy. Come on, Mainoo all the way. Can you imagine if Man United actually won like coach of the? I think Carrick's nominated for coach of the year. So can you imagine if Michael Carrick won coach of the year? And then if Mainoo wins player of the young player of the season and Bruno Fernandes wins player of the season, then obviously it's not as good. Like we want to see Man United winning trophies, but it would, for me, it would be the most evidence you can possibly see in terms of like we've turned a corner to this one. Like from January to now, we've definitely definitely turned a corner. I think Mainoo is so overrated. Cake. I agree with you on some things. I might I might have to respectfully have a different opinion on Mr. Mainoo at the moment. I think Kobe is he's 21 years old. He's got all the time in the world to develop. So I don't think he's overrated. I think he's a good player. That's what I think. Big up to you, Luca. Says Believe would be good. Yeah, yeah. Maybe Believe would be like when we talk about in maybe the next stream as well. Oh, you didn't put Mainoo in as we already have him. Okay, yeah, fair play, Cody. So let's go for a few of the comments then. If anyone's got any sort of comments they want to talk about, because I will be doing a live stream tonight. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best time to do it. I don't know if like guests are available, but I'm not sure whether I'll do it during the the Youth Cup or after that one. I don't know. I'm trying to think when the best time to do it is because if I try and avoid every single match, it makes it really difficult with certain guests as well. So Arteta will win Coach of the Year, even with his anti-football. What has he been coaching though? Has he been saying like right, you guys, you pressurize the goalkeeper. What do they work on in training? Do they just like bully Raya into the goal? Do Gabriel and Martinelli just box Raya in? Is that what they work on in drills? Because no, it's uh, if Arteta wins Coach of the Year, he might win it for getting the league title done. But it's been disappointing football, isn't it? Like it's been the league has been somewhat competitive, I guess, because of the title race. But the quality of the football in a lot of games hasn't really been there, and maybe we're going to see something change. I think hopefully with Man United. So I just say I got a stat for people that I think might be relevant. That if you just joined and you missed this one, this is something I saw regarding Man United. We've won more duels than any other club in the Premier League, and that man Casemiro is responsible for some of that. So with that in mind, I think that's why I'm looking at too many Elliot Anderson as really key signings because their duels is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I'll big up to you, Modern Samurai. You're like so generous. So just trying to help you build the channel up, United to the top, United TV to the top. And so give me the goal scorer midfielder and a centre back over 5'10", and say so how this is one where okay, how tall is Anderson? Like how tall is Anderson? So too many 6'2". He's he can handle himself, and we've seen that. He'll if he can. Uh, when they said that he didn't throw any punches, he accidentally hospitalised Valverde. So get him in the Premier League, he'll be absolutely fine. And he's not a goal scorer, but he's going to be an elite midfielder. I think if we got him centre back over 5'10". Yeah, see, I'm going to say this. I was actually surprised by this stat, and you might be like people might be surprised by this one. That weirdly, if you're looking at two players, you've got, and this is what do I read? So Lissandro Martinez, I don't know how tall he is. He's about 5'8", is he, or 5'9"? And you've got Senesi, who I'm not sure how tall Senesi is. Senesi's dual win rate in the air is about 45%. And then when I looked at Lissandro Martinez, his dual rate in the air is about 70 plus. So I don't know, I can't really explain it, but it seems that Lissandro Martinez is actually way better in duels than Senesi, but I can't really explain it. Now, big up to you, Bilal. I'll catch you later. I'll try and work out when to do something. But no, so weirdly, for someone that wins aerial duels, even though he's really short, I would probably prefer to get so Senesi's 6 foot. So how do you explain that Senesi's 6 foot? He wins less than half his duels, and someone that's going to be a lot shorter, like Sandro Martinez, wins way more. Like it's not even close. It's really bizarre. So it's about like 74%. So I checked it last night. And I just thought that Senesi's actually quite poor in the air. So it could be that he can jump. Like say Martinez has got springs for legs. It could be. Maybe short. I'm not saying like short people jump more, but maybe with Sandro Martinez, it's also about positioning maybe, and he's stronger and he uses his physique well. It's like Yoro doesn't seem as good in the air, but he is fairly tall. He's like, isn't Yoro like is Yoro 6'3", or am I exaggerating? So, but it's something like that. No, so no, big up to you, Modern Samurai. Though, I appreciate that. So Martinez has got more power in his jumps. That is true. That's true. Does anybody have any? I'm quite up for doing any sort of poll if you want to discuss anything. Is there any sort of final poll you want to do this stream? We did actually look at. Yeah, Yoro's got an elite. Do you know what I think with Yoro? Is I think with Yoro and Aiden Heaven that with my kind of dream partnership for the future is Yoro plus Heaven. I think Aiden Heaven's going to be a physical beast, but he's also actually quite good. So I think with Aiden Heaven, it feels like someone that's got the physicality of Vidic, but can progress with the ball a bit like Rio Ferdinand. And I think Yoro's got this a different skill set where his tackling is spot on, like really clean and one on one winning the ball, but against pacey defenders. I thought 6'3". Yoro's going to be really good in terms of like for that attribute. But I think Yoro's not really that good in the air at the moment. So if you pair them together, I think you've got a good team. But I think in the meantime, I think Harry Maguire or someone like else is going to be a good leader Because I think with Euro, you want to have someone alongside him. And so for his age, I think sometimes we forget that they're only like 19 and 20. And I'm trying to think how old Rio Ferdinand when we bought him, but Rio Ferdinand had been at Leeds for quite a few years. Before we bought Rio Ferdinand, he'd already played for West Ham. He went to Leeds. Leeds were a semi-finalist in the European Cup, don't forget, before we got Rio Ferdinand. And Woodgate went to Real Madrid. So Manchester United and Real Madrid basically bought Leeds' centre back partnership. So they were definitely definitely world class in that year. And so for his age, now he is really good, isn't he? I think with Euro, it's about working on his weaknesses and hoping that the partnership with Aidan Heaven's really good. So I quite like the idea of having so the Euro's 20, isn't he? Aidan Heaven's 19. It's a shame that Harry Maguire or we don't have a player that's like 25, 26. We go on that one. I think my issues with Lissandro Martinez might be that I think Lissandro Martinez is a bit erratic, and it probably comes down to injury prone. It's as bad as it is. I say Rio wasn't half the player Yara was at 19. Yeah, I think with Rio Ferdinand, I thought he was an amazing player for Man United. Like, I thought when I watched Manchester United live, and Rio Ferdinand, his reading of the game was so excellent. Like, and that's something that I think is difficult to see when you watch it on TV. Like Rio Ferdinand's positional awareness was fantastic, and I think it's a difficult years, isn't it, Danny? That I think players don't progress in a straight line. So Yora's really, really good at 18, 19. How good is he going to be at 23? And is it going to be something that you'd imagine that Yora's going to get better every single season, but it's not going to be a straight line trajectory. He's going to have like up days, bad days, like good games, and he's going to gradually improve. I think maybe under Michael Carrick, having a flat back four, a good goalkeeper behind him. If we fix midfield in front of him, this is my prediction. If Manchester United get a good midfield next season, it's going to be Aiden Heaven and Yoro will look even better in a Man United team. So maybe this is a bit of a stretch, but maybe if we don't sign if we don't sign a new centre back, maybe we won't be as bad off as we think. Like maybe we're actually going to see better performances from these players. That's what I'm hoping. Big up to you, Funshu. Good to see you, my man. So hot take, bring Vardy in for his aura. Where, I, okay, where does Vardy play at the moment? Like he left Leicester, didn't he? I don't know where Vardy plays. He's a he's probably one of these players. If you gave Vardy like 10 chances, he's probably going to get some goals. But I don't know if I'm just trying to think of how you would. Yeah, maybe Vardy's actually a bit like underrated in terms of Premier League players because his record was phenomenal. Like for a few seasons, he was like you'd say he was like a world class player because he scored what 8 games in a row, 9 games in a row. But I get the feeling we're going to do some fun Anderson streams at some point on this channel. So you have a feeling that none of the Manchester clubs will be able to sign Elliot Anderson. He'll be priced out of a move. Roger will sign a new deal as well. Cremonese in Italy. So yeah, I mean, I've seen us linked to. He gives us shithousery. Yeah, I don't mind shithousery in the squad. I think it's something that I think with Vardy he does bring that. I think Cunha brings that as well. It does give us actually, if you had, I don't know how Vardy's been doing this season, but people talk about Lewandowski on like a 1 year contract for 175K a week, and I'm just thinking, I'm intrigued. I don't know how Lewandowski would do in the Premier League, but I do remember getting. I think we got who was the player we got for Mourinho? We got Zlatan when Zlatan was about 34, 35. We got Henrik Larsson at the same age. So I don't know. It's intriguing. Like Lewandowski for 1 year is intriguing when people say it. Vardy for a year, I don't mind going for a loan deal or a one like, but it's tricky to say that one. Vardy looks like it's. That's quality. That's funny. I don't know what to respond with that one. Um, yeah. Afternoon, Tyrone. Good to see you. Tyrone, are you interested in joining after the match? We're going to do calling shows after every single game. And if you, and I know you said you used to join ones years ago. If you want to come on, I was thinking that we could be doing, if there's like a bit of a demand, we can do them like quite rapid so people can come in for 5 minutes. Yeah, which one's this? Which one is Stepto? Is this Lewandowski? Lewandowski's about 30. He's 37, isn't he? 37, I believe. So he could have ended up at Manchester United, but United went for Robin van Persie. He could have ended up. Is it Lewandowski that could have gone to Blackburn? Or have I made that up? There was definitely a high-profile player that was going to go to Blackburn. Then there was that Ash Cloud thing. Then it didn't happen. Was that Lewandowski? I think for some reason I've got it in the back of my mind. It might have been. Yeah, you're welcome, Tyrone. If you look at what I'll do is some of the previous call-in shows, I'll put them in like a folder, and people can look at them. I put some chapters in, Tyrone. So if you want to like, if I think you watched a few live, but if you want to browse the call-in shows, you'll be able to see like different guests are coming on, and it's actually been very fun stream. Imagine United signing Tchouaméni or Anderson plus 90 for Belieber or Stiller and Fernandez. Yeah, looking at that, I think I don't want to say it's going to happen, Funshu, because I did say I thought we'd do a deal in January because it seemed like stupid not to do a deal in January. So I'm not going to say it's going to happen. But I think from somebody sent me an update from Andy Mitten, like Berber sent me one at the start of the stream, and what he said was if we're looking at if we're looking at our transfer window as a whole, the idea is going to be that we sign at least like two midfielders to start with. If Agate leaves three, so I read that as three, like Agate's going to leave. And if you look at the forward situation, we would get a replacement for Xerxes if he leaves. So I get the feeling that we're going to sign three midfielders to start with. So that effectively is replacing Casemiro, Agate, and probably Collier. So that's three in, three out. We're going to be hopefully getting left back cover. We're hopefully going to be getting a forward player. But it does feel a little bit like our squad's not necessarily going to get much bigger. I'm wondering whether United actually think that if they get first team players in, maybe some academy players will be replacing the bench options possibly. So yeah, it's going to be. I'm not sure. I'm kind of like 50-50 on whether the transfer window is going to be really good. But I get the feeling we're going to have a better squad. The question is going to be how much better it's going to be. If we could get a couple of goal scorers and a midfielder, I would be good with our back four and Lamans between the sticks. I think maybe what we're looking at this one is, I think the back four is probably going to it's probably going to be the same, isn't it? But what we might see is the back four might be better next season because Aiden Heaven's more experienced, Yora's more experienced. We've got a better goalkeeper, so I think the relationship between the centre backs and the full backs and the goalkeeper will all be improved. So, so yeah, Agata would definitely leave for 25 million. He's going to go, isn't he? He's got a good agent. He's gone. I don't know where he's gone, but he's not going to be a Manchester United player. Stiller would be massive for us as Modern Samurai. I think he would be. Yeah, he's one where I don't know whether we're going to get him. So I'm not sure whether if we go for Stiller, then it for me it might show that Vivel's going to be getting a bit more say, and maybe Christopher Vivel should be listened to because he was one of the reasons we got Lamans over Emi Martinez, according to what people were saying. They said this is quite risky for Munoz if they go down and replace and use youth and rely on them. So I'm hoping that this is going to be not reliance, because reliance would seem like fundamentally a bad strategy. But if you were looking at academy players maybe filling the gaps a bit, and I think what I'd look at it is if Manchester United have a good first 11, and then on the bench we have at least like four or five senior players, because that's what you need. You need to have a goalkeeper that's good enough to be similar to Lamans. You need at least a defensive midfield and a couple of attacking options that are at least as good as the first team. So even if it means that Armadillo and Bremo or Cunha a bench. I think if you've got five players on the bench that yeah, are not a drop off from the first team, then academy players are then the backups to that. So the academy players for me would be like, your sixth, seventh, and eighth choice in a game. They're not going to be people that play in the Champions League at the start, or people that play in the Premier League matches, but they should be there to get some experience, hopefully in the Europa League, early FA Cups, possibly. And then, maybe in games, if Man United are actually controlling a game, winning it, bring someone on for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then go from there. But the academy should be very slowly phased in, like really slow, in my opinion. And I think when people say throw academy players in, it makes me feel a bit worried that I think if you imagine, do you remember who's the guy that came on? Like Hannibal came on, probably should have got red carded when he made his debut. I think Forster looked out of his depth, but in the other circumstances, Ganacho actually looked quite good as a substitution when he first broke into the team, and Mainoo actually adapted to first team football very quickly. So it's a bit of an unknown, and so for academy players, I would say just give them like a little, give them like a few minutes, then just go from there. And if it works out well, you can gradually extend it. So it's not a big problem for me. And before we go, I'll just read a few comments before we go. But there is going to be a stream tonight. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best time to do it. So I know there's like a youth cup playing at 7, but it depends on what guests are available. So it might be like 8 or something. I'm not sure. But if anyone's got any preference, then just let me know. But I don't think it's going to be a late one because it's getting quite tiring. So it might be like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. UK time for an evening stream, but probably like an hour, hour and a half, depending on if I get guests on or not. Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot. I don't know if you use Discord, Tyrone, but feel free to like share any information you want as well. We're trying to use them in the streams. My memory's kind of like being, there's so many midfield targets Man United have got. I've kind of just, it's kind of pushed out anything else out of my brain at the moment. Yeah, too many could be centre back. I saw someone say about Valverde recently that no Man United would get Valverde and then put him, is it right back or left back that Valverde sometimes plays? I think it's right back. I'm not sure. No, cheers, Rob. I appreciate that. I'm always trying to like, the only thing I try to think of is I try to avoid the United stand because it's the biggest channel. But I also am mindful that if guests come on, then it's pretty much depends when they're available, and there's only so much I can. But I think when it comes to the summer, and we got there's no football on apart from the World Cup. What we will do is we'll pick a standard time, and maybe do that every single day. So it might be like 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and then but it depends when the football is. But I am working towards getting like a big team involved on the channel, like myself, with the better maybe should do a collab with Goldbridge. There's no way Goldbridge is going to do a collaboration with myself, Tyrone. But I don't think he's even be aware of how would you even do that? How would that even work? That I think is I've heard people say things in the past that I'm up for collaborations, but I don't think Goldbridge would ever come on this channel. I don't think that would ever happen, and I don't think I'd ever be invited on the United stand ever. I mean, I don't think we'd agree too much with Mark on a lot of things, to be honest. Like he's quite negative about a lot of things. I'm more optimistic about a few things as well. So the Forest United stand, yeah, the Forest United stand should be admiring of this. This is probably going to be the perfect channel to talk about Elliot Anderson, isn't it? Because they're going to admire Elliot Anderson, but also want him sold from one part of the channel to the other part of the channel. Okay, so why are we not even looking at Noah Siddiqui? He's very good technically, can cover every blade of grass, development with Premier League experience. I think we are, Funshu. When this channel was Red Devil United, I definitely did I definitely did a stream on Noah Siddiqui, and I can't remember the story, but Man United looking at him and considering that as well. Just inbox him. Yeah, no. To be honest, like Rob, I think they do. I think you'd be surprised how much overlap there is. But one of these streams, occasionally, what I'll do is I put a comment in once and said, right, you know, do you watch this channel and say yes or no? And I think a lot of people watch a lot of channels, So a lot of people watch a lot of football channels. And I know from a fact that looking at the my YouTube channel analytics, that most people watching the most popular channels that are watched are other big Man United channels. So people watching just watch a range of different Man United channels, like all of the major ones. So I've seen a lot of people in a lot of channels, and I have done a few collaborations with Alice Talks Football over the years. But again, Alice Talks Football, or Alice is actually quite busy, so it's quite tricky. And then it's difficult to kind of do like if I do a 30-minute show, then it's quite difficult to pick a time that works for Alice, but also to advertise people that people would know. So it's tricky. It is tricky. One thing that might be in the pipeline is who's the guy from? So Stretford Paddock. There's a guest on there that used to be on Webby and O'Neill. I think it's Webby came on. Yeah, Webby came on Red Devil United about a year ago, and I haven't. So maybe now I do. Maybe there is possibility. I don't want to make the channel just about getting trying to get other guests on because it's quite difficult because they've got their own channels, and I wanted to try and do something a bit different. But I think with some of these people, then there is definitely scope to try and get other people on because there's definitely going to be potential to get these people involved because if it's a moderate, sensible channel and discussing the same sort of things, I might be able to. I did say to I think Webby last time that it might be able to get him on again, but it would just mean that if we do a stream, just so people know, it would be a lot smaller stream, so that it wouldn't be like an hour, hour and a half. It would be a bit shorter time as well. Yeah, Atalanta for 80. I think the price might be like 84 sounds quite high. It might be a little. How did I manage to get Webby on? Just messaged him and sent a message and said, "Do you fancy joining a stream?" And Jeff, Jeff did the groundwork a little bit as well, and messaged him. And I think he was on the Stretford Paddock on like a 4 p.m. stream, and then we did something at 5 p.m. So he's already in the studio, could just jump on for 30 minutes. So it's about. I think when people are busy, it's about just trying to get them on, get them if they're available. But no, it's quite tricky. Yeah, it's possible, Gregory. It's possible. I think there is somebody I know called Dan who I might message, but I think there's definitely going to be chances to do that in the future. But again, I think at the moment it's just about building up this channel, and then we'll kind of get people on. Yeah, no, Renee's definitely someone that I'm going to try and get back on, Tyrone. That she was very good. I think the issue with some people is like Renee's also based because she's based in America. And I'm not sure which part of the US she's in, but I think it might be like near Texas. So there is a big time difference to deal with. So when I messaged Renee midweek, just okay for the last couple of minutes, I'll just say that some of the practicalities is that Renee's really good, but unfortunately, when we're streaming, there's like a 5 hour time difference, or maybe six. It might be even 6 hours. So I think Texas would be 6 hours at least. So the difficulty is unless I start streaming at like midnight, 1 p.m., etc., etc., it's going to be yeah, it's very difficult to get people on because they're just not available. Dan United, I know, and I'm gonna speak to Dan, and he would be up for that, I think. So no, it's about finding people that it's not just about finding channels because they're big, or I think Dan seems like a really good guy as well, and I like listening to Dan, so I would try and get him involved. So it's a quality issue as well. But yeah, no, I think he would be. He has said that I can go on his channel and I might try and do the same thing as well. Because sometimes it's quite nice getting another content creator on because they're professional. They're going to be, they've got strong opinions. They're doing this as well every single day, so it makes conversation flow really nicely. So, it's something to bear in mind. I will, I might post something on the channel community page and say people you think would be a good collaboration because I think it's something I'm looking to do. And one thing I should say is if you look at some of the sources I've been using recently, and we've got Sully Talks is like for me, Sully Talks is one of the best sources. He was there early on the Carrick story, and Sully Talks. Spoken to Sully Talks, and he's actually up for coming on in the June sometime. So when the transfer window is opening or close to opening, I think study talks will come on the channel. I'm not sure how frequently. I'm hoping to like maybe see how it goes and then maybe get him on more. But that would be something that potentially happens. So I'm looking for maybe like more longer term collaborations than like a one-off thing. So I think with some of the people, it's about let's see how it goes. Let's do one collaboration, see how that works, and maybe with Dan might be the same sort of thing. You know, if it works because we're both going to be doing sort of similar sort of streams, so you have to kind of try and be mindful that we don't want to be streaming at the same time if we're trying to like overlap our kind of audience a little bit. So, maybe it could be that 7 to 8 he does a stream, 8 to 9 I do a stream, and we kind of like both go on. There could be some way of working it, but I'm going to message Dan and see what happens. But yeah, study's decent. Like study is good. And I don't really worry about getting guests on because when people say, "How'd you get guests on?" I just send them a message and just say, "Look, it'd be great to get you on, outline kind of what we do, send them a link to the channel, say, this is kind of the content we do. If you're interested in joining, and we'd be happy to have you on." And then people do that as well. Super. Yeah, exactly. If you watch Manchester United content as well to help the channel, if you're a big viewer of Manchester United fan content, then please share the streams. Please click the like, etc., and it'll help us grow. But I'm gonna have to head off now. It's gonna be probably tonight, maybe like 7 or 8 p.m. stream. I've messaged a couple of people to see if people are available. But as always, if you want to leave a comment on the video of something you've seen interesting that you want to see covered, and for people like say Gregory who watches a lot of Man United content, if you're able to like click like or share the stream as well, that will send YouTube a good message. And big up to Modern Samurai for the gifted members and the generous super chat as well. Can I message Jason Wilcox and get him on? I think there's like zero chance of that happening. Zero chance. You got to be realistic, Cake. You got to be realistic. No, if people know people they think would be interested, this is like if you got friends you think would be interested in the channel, please send them a link to like watch. That would be the best way of growing. Like friend recommendation would be the best way. I can use some contacts. I've got a lot of contacts in the YouTube world regarding like content creators. So when it comes to certain games, I might try and do something with Chloe before the Brighton game because then we can like factor in like Believer stuff as well regarding that one. I'm not quite so I don't know quite so many Forest fans, so I think I might have left it a bit late to try and do something. But I will try and get some rival fans on a bit more. Say, have I reached out to United players? If I think United till I die. You follow me on social media, don't you? You follow me on Twitter. If you know some Twitter accounts for these people of any players you think would be worth getting on, it might be worth trying to message people, and it might be worth it if we can. If there's someone you think would make a good guess, we can have a look at that. But I'll be open to trying to do something probably. But it depends on like what we're talking about. If we're going to be hammering transfer stories, then maybe not. Maybe that could be something for like a different time. So it could be. There is definitely. I remember talking to I can't remember his name now, ex-Man United player, but wasn't a big star. But he then became like a financial. I think he works in the financial sector, but he might have been someone to get on. But no, I'll look into it. Everything is like I said, everything is on the table. Now, big up to you, Modern Samurai. Thanks so much for the gifted memberships. And just say a shout out to Beans on Toast, who I think is a Liverpool content creator and must be a friend of Fozzie's. So big up to you. Big up to Rob as well in the chat. Big up to Mr. Chris and Jarvis as well and Tyrone. So it's good to gift. Thanks a lot for the gifted memberships and really nice that a lot of channel legends are being benefiting from that as well. I did put a load of custom emojis in the chat, and if there's other custom emojis you want, I tend to have biased it a little bit towards my favorite players, so I put a Cantona one in there. But absolute legend, Modern Samurai, and yeah, take advantage of the if you got any custom emojis you'd like to see, please like just post them in there. But yeah, absolute legend, Modern Samurai. I'm gonna have to go off and get some food in a second, but I will try and yeah, these are my emojis so far. If there's a player missing, you think I've got Carrick on there, I got Roy Keane, but Roy Keane for a player. I did actually specifically put Mark Hughes in a 1991 Cup Winners' Cup final kit because I think it's the little details that matter. But if you see something there, I might have to remove the bottle if Arsenal win the league, though, which will be a shame. But no, if there's a favourite player you've got that you think should be in there, I might have to get Rooney back in there, and I might have to get Cristiano Ronaldo back in there, and maybe there's one of maybe I should get one of the Trinity statue, possibly like a Best Lord Charlton one, which might be quite nice. But as I said, like yeah, please make suggestions if there's things you would like to see on the channel. Make suggestions in the Discord or make suggestions in the YouTube community page because there's certain things I can do, and if you guys are, if it's something you'd like to see, then I'll do my best to try and make it happen. Let me just have a quick check. So I think I forgot to. Did I post? I don't know if I posted a link to the community stuff. Let me just. This isn't very professional. So I have got like a link to. I'm very small on TikTok. I've got like about 30 people following me, but no, cheers, Andy. So I'll just put a link there to my social stuff as well. So I could put Phil Jones in there. I don't know. I want to see it as a positive, Gregory. So Phil Jones, if people are going to mock Phil Jones, I don't know. I'm not wanting to put a negative spin on it. Maybe I should put Lamans in there, and I should put Lamans in there for like if we do a match reaction and Lamans has been good, maybe some recent players would be actually quite good to put in there. So yeah, George Best. Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe it should be like Best, Charlton. Is Sir Alex Ferguson not in there? Maybe he should have been. Yeah, yeah, I think so. What I'll do is I will put George Best in there because that's the reason my dad started watching Man United and probably the reason why I'm a Manchester United fan. So yeah, George Best will have to go in there, and then Law, Dennis Law, Bobby Charlton. They're up there. Maybe George Best should be in there. I was thinking for me, maybe I should put some number sevens in there. And I'll just put number seven shirt, put all those number sevens in there that have been world class over the years. Obviously not Michael Owen, obviously not Mason Mount, but some of the ones where we got proper number sevens from like Eric Cantona, Beckham, etc. Anyway, guys, I did say I was going to finish about a bit earlier, but I haven't. So I will also expect, yeah, I'm not going to put anything negative there. Um, there's obviously going to be King Eric. He was the first one in there, first legend. But no, I know there's like a few things happening tonight. I think the stream most likely tonight will be about 8, possibly a little bit earlier, but it very much depends on this one. So Mason Mount is the best seven ever. Yeah, is he even in the top seven? I don't know. He probably cost the most one. Yeah, I think Paul Beckham was elite. Like that was the one where he was like running around like a madman against Greece, and it was the one where didn't we do the? Did we have? Actually, I've forgotten which it was. Like Paul Beckham is probably going to be a little early 2000s, isn't it? I'm just trying to think what he was. Or was it? I can't remember the year now. I can't remember the year. We did a stream once a year ago where we talked about Beckham's hairstyles, and I can't remember when he was bald Beckham. I think bald Roy Keane was like the best Roy Keane. I'm not sure about Beckham. But no. There we go, guys. Thank you for watching. A massive thanks to Modern Samurai for the memberships, and thank you so much for everybody else that got involved in the channel. And Tabassa's saying, to be honest though, there is someone that tunes in that says that they call Dorgu like no, they call Dallo Balan Dallo. So yeah, there's something for everyone in the Man United squad. I've only met one person that really rates Dallo as particularly that highly, but yeah, it takes all sorts to have different views. But big up to you guys. I'll post something in the Discord when I know what time I'm live tonight, but it's probably going to be 7-ish to 8-ish as a starting time. but it's going to depend on guests. But until then, guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one.